Good evening, I'm Sangeeta Kandola. In her first TV interview, the mother of Grace Mullane has spoken to ITV News London about how setting up a charity has helped the family cope with the grief of losing their daughter. Grace was murdered on a first date whilst travelling in New Zealand 5 years ago. The charity Love Grace aims to help women who have been affected by domestic violence. Her mum Jill spoke to our senior correspondent, Ronke Phillips.
Shampoo, conditioner.
She's a mother who made a conscious decision to channel the grief she experienced after the murder of her daughter into helping others. And Love Grace is very much a family affair, run from a garage at her home in Wickford in Essex, with her niece, sister and other relatives all helping to keep the memory of Grace Mullane alive.
We still feel that Grace is doing good out there. She's giving that bag to that person. Although we are packing it and doing it, but it helps us through our grief.
Grace was strangled by a man she met on a dating app while she was backpacking in New Zealand in 2018. She died on the eve of her 22nd birthday. Jill firmly believes the Tinder date was used by the murderer to manipulate Grace and was in itself a form of domestic abuse. He was convicted and then sentenced during the pandemic. Jill forced to read her impact statement over Zoom.
How am I meant to get up and get on with my days, knowing it's just another day? I won't speak to her.
Giving handbags filled with essential toiletries to women fleeing violent relationships is what gave Jill back her sense of purpose and is the way she chooses to remember Grace.
Grace loved a handbag, and we incorporate everything as if it's Grace given that bag. So the tag that we have, Grace hand drew that poppy that's on there, and the writing is a card that she gave, one of the last birthday cards she gave me. And then we sat down and we wrote a little bit about her, what happened to her, and the final message is to the ladies: you are worth something.
Louise, who we can't identify, spent 7 years isolated in an abusive relationship. She suffered physical, mental, emotional and sexual violence, but eventually went to the police and was referred to a refuge where a Love Grace bag had been placed on her bed.
To receive a bag like that is amazing. It's very overwhelming as well because of where it comes from, because it's got such meaning to it, and it's helped me on my journey.
Jill's husband David died while they were still mourning Grace, and she has successfully battled cancer. But she's determined not to be defined by the tragedies she's suffered. The next chapter of her life is focused on a lasting legacy to Grace. Ronke Phillips, ITV News.
In other news, the RMT tube drivers have announced they will strike on March the 15th. The action is timed to coincide with Budget Day and a walkout already planned by the ASLEF union. The strike is over pensions and contracts. The deadline for the government and TfL to agree the details of the pension reform has been pushed back until the 17th. Homelessness in the capital has risen more than anywhere else in the country. Over 850 people were sleeping on the streets on a single night last autumn, up 34% from the year before. The Mayor says the increase is extremely alarming. After a 2-year inquiry, a parliamentary report on brain tumours is demanding urgent action to help those affected by the condition. The government say it's allocated £40 million of funding for research, but campaigners and MPs say just 15 million of that has actually been spent. Antoine Allen reports.
I just hear those words, brain tumour, and I don't even remember the rest of the analysis.
Without warning, Sam had multiple seizures. Later in hospital, he was told he had a brain tumour. 3 years ago, his little knowledge of the condition added to his fear about how long he would have left with his 2 children.
Brain tumours are the biggest killer of adults and children under the age of 40, and I'm 37 now, and I don't want to be that statistic.
Sam, would you say if there was more awareness, it would give people like yourself with tumours more hope, which makes it easier, not for just the treatment, but also just to live a normal life.
Absolutely. I think hope is a key word. We've got to keep hoping. I think that's the main thing that drives us forward. And things like this report that's being published today is another step in taking that step forward.
Baroness Jowl.
A brain tumour ended Tessa Jowell's life, but she devoted her last time in Parliament to raising awareness.
What gives a life meaning is not only how it is lived, but how it draws to a close.
Since her death in 2018, her daughter has carried out her legacy through the Tessa Jowell Brain Cancer Mission, which today published a groundbreaking report proposing innovative solutions for hospitals to implement.
Patients like my mum, patients all over the country are dying too soon. But what I also know, that had my mum been diagnosed today, only 5 years on from when she was diagnosed, she could possibly be able to receive precision medicine in one of our Tessa Jowell Centres of Excellence in Cambridge. She could know that in every hospital in the country she would receive excellent neurosurgery.
What would your mum think of this report and the amazing work that you're doing?
She'd be proud of us, but she would also be saying, what's next? We need to do more.
In a second report, an all-party parliamentary group on brain tumours has called for, amongst other things, changes to how research into the disease is funded. Hugh, today is an important day for reports. If the government don't listen to those recommendations, what could happen to a whole generation of those people that have brain tumours?
Very few certainties in the brain tumour world. One thing we know, though, for certain, is if we don't invest in discovery science, we will not get closer to a cure. That discovery science underpins all clinical innovation, the route to trials.
The Department of Health and Social Care says the £40 million we've allocated so far has supported 13 research programmes. Antoine Allen, ITV News.
A renowned sociologist from Clapham will become the youngest black professor ever appointed at the University of Cambridge. Jason Arday, who has autism and didn't learn to read or write until the age of 18, hopes his achievement will inspire others to pursue a career in the sector. However, speaking on our programme earlier, he said there is still a long way to go to improve representation.
It'll only feel like a win when there is greater representation and there are more amazing and gifted people than I am. And I think when we have those people in the right spaces, particularly people from disadvantaged backgrounds and particularly black and ethnic minority people, and we have a sector that's been, particularly cruel to black female academics. I think once we're able to broaden that space and to have those individuals reach their full potential without any form of discrimination, then I think we will have achieved something.
Turning to tonight's FA Cup clash, and Fulham have cruised through to the quarter-finals after victory over Leeds United. 2 spectacular goals by João Palhinha in the first half and Manor Solomon in the second was enough to secure the 2-0 victory for Marco Silva's men over the Peacocks. The next round of fixtures will be played in mid-March. And Tottenham Hotspur are planning on building an electric karting track under their south stand. Formula One President Stefano Domenicali said the partnership would help to open up motorsport to new and diverse audiences. Weather now, here's Sally.
ITV London weekday weather is sponsored by Octopus Electric Vehicles. Car, charger and energy.
Hello, a very good evening to you. I hope you had a good last day of February. I'm not sure this bird did, looks a bit grumpy. But anyway, tomorrow is the start of meteorological spring. The weather looks pretty settled. Quite a lot of cloud around as we go through the week. Occasionally some breaks to let some sunshine through. We're not feeling too bad when we get the sunshine, but under that cloud, it is chilly and it's cold at night. So let's take a look at the detail for you. Possibly the odd shower out there, but most areas dry. Where we get some breaks in that cloud, there's a higher chance where the prolonged clear spells are of a bit of patchy frost, but it's going to be a cold start wherever you are tomorrow. Those temperatures quite close to freezing. The start of spring generally gets off on a dry note. Again tomorrow, possibly an isolated shower here or there, but many areas keeping the dry weather. That cloud breaking at times to allow a little bit of sunshine or brightness through. Bit breezy tomorrow, but temperatures similar to today, highs of 6 to 10 degrees. Cooler, as I suggested, under that cloud. And into the evening, no real change. An isolated shower here or there and some patchy cloud. Another cold start as we move into Thursday, and probably a bit more cloud through Friday and Saturday. Our temperatures on the cool side. That's it. Good night. Sleep well.
ITV London weekday weather is sponsored by Octopus Electric Vehicles.
Finally, the nominations for the Olivier Awards were announced this evening, which celebrate the very best in British theatre. A whole host of West End productions, actors and actresses are up for awards. The most nominated show is My Neighbour Totoro, which ran at the Barbican earlier this year, followed by Standing at the Sky's Edge, which transferred to the National Theatre in London from Sheffield. And that is all for now. We are back on air tomorrow morning from 6 a.m. But from me and everyone on the late team, good night.